Hi, and welcome back to the Mom and Mind podcast, Behind the Sessions. I'm your host, Dr. Kat. In these episodes, I really try and focus on the things that people bring into therapy. And sometimes those things that bring people into therapy, I've heard so many times from so many different moms that I get sort of incensed or enraged by how much these societal impacts and pressures continue to haunt new moms and have like melted into the psyches of moms in such a way that it makes people feel bad about themselves, stuck, um, not knowing if how they really feel is okay. And one of those ways, maybe, I don't know, let's just say top five things that bother me the most, um, are how moms feel guilty for wanting and needing time alone. This is wild to me that it is still so ever present, that moms can't just take some time for themselves and do that in a guilt free way. I just don't, there's no other pressure on any other parent like this. Um, like if there's a primary parent, mom, who is doing the bulk of caregiving and they want some time alone, that's really, really okay and normal and should be supported for them to get the time or the break that they need. Parents who aren't the primary parent get time away from parenting kind of naturally if they have a job outside of the home, um, or I don't know, even if they come straight home, they have breaks, they have time where they can have lunch on their own if they're at work. They're not trying to figure out how to feed a human, another human, and themselves at the same time. Anyways, so this guilt for wanting time alone comes uh, from multiple sources. I think there's probably too many to name, but some of the big ones are the societal pressures that we view and have. This is the myth, this is the pervasive pressure that moms should want to be with their kids all of the time and enjoy it all of the time. And I don't know, be able to do all of the other things at the same time. It's just ridiculous. We don't put this kind of pressure on anybody else. Um, so society has had this myth. I don't know for how long. I don't know if it's a newer type of a myth or not. But meaning I don't know how long it's been around. But I do feel like it's just been more and more um, common, since I've been doing this work. I think social media has something to do with it. There's also, I think there was the movement for attachment parenting, which is a fine movement. However, um, a lot of the narrative around attachment parenting, which gets it confused with attachment styles, is that this like connection, it means you're supposed to be attached to your kid all of the time. So there's some stuff that has come in not only from attachment parenting, but other types of parenting practices, which at their base are great and fine and wonderful, and a strategy for how you parent and how you connect and interact with your children. However, taken out of context and put into the realm of social media, or I don't know, sometimes even influencers, or people who aren't bringing the full context of the meaning behind a concept, it gets misconstrued, and then applied in all of these wonky ways that somehow You're supposed to be ever present for your child, or that's going to like mess them up somehow if you're not present all of the time. I think there's actually an argument uh, for not being 100% present all the time. Like our kids need breaks from us too. Um, like we cannot be in their face all of the time. It's they need a little bit of freedom within the safety of your home, and whatnot to like explore and have ideas of their own and not be like directed all of the time. Anyways, that's my little bird walk off of that. Um, but there's this idea that selflessness is the best thing for, maybe it's even for the child, but maybe it's even sold as like the best thing for the mom. That you're supposed to set yourself aside and be there, be present, um, be paying attention to every little detail and thing that the kid needs. Um, and I don't agree. I don't think it's healthy for the parent to be 100% on all of the time. And like I mentioned before, kids need a certain amount of freedom within safety and within reason. So there's this um, pressure again societally. I think, well, societally, culturally, and maybe within family of origin, that once you become a mother, somehow the person that you were before is just not supposed to have needs, not supposed to exist in the same way. That you're supposed to have like set aside all of yourself in order to just be only being a little bit dramatic, but to only be there for your kid in the way that your kid needs you, or the way you think your kid needs you. And I just think we're doing such a disservice to both mom and baby, child, and partner, honestly, when we expect the mom to just not exist anymore. How is that okay? Why are we doing this? So it's like this selflessness has been sold to us as the way that we're supposed to be, and I just wholly reject the idea. I think it is degrading, honestly, and I think it really impacts the mental health of the mom, that she can't somehow be a whole person anymore, that she has to sacrifice every part of herself in order to just be present and be doing everything for the family now. It's that she can't want to have a job, that she can't want to go out with her friends, that she can't want to start a business, that she can't want to go on a vacation. How is it that all of a sudden there's just this like life sentence pressure that you no longer can be any part of who you were before? Now you have to be all this like self-sacrificing, self-negating human in the world, and only be at the service of your child and your partner, or whatever the family structure is. It's ridiculous. And a mom can want to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's great and wonderful too. Um, but that doesn't mean that she still doesn't have other wants and needs outside of the home. We're just boxing people in too much, and in such a way that it is seeping into people's unconscious processes. Meaning, like, if I'm a mom who has been, I don't know, let's say with my kid all day, and I'm frustrated, or I need a little bit of time alone, but I haven't been able to get that because whatever, the kid's needy, the kid is sick, you name it. And my partner comes home and I say, I just need like an hour to myself. Are you really telling me that that's not an okay ask? Are we telling moms that they can't or shouldn't ask for that? Even if it's just an hour, let alone, you know, this is like back to school time right now. So a lot of kids are returning to school or going to school for the first time. And it is, a hard transition for some people if their kids are going to school for the first time. They might have some feelings about it and might be missing their kids and all of that. But they could also be experiencing relief. Moms could be experiencing relief that they have some time for themselves now. But can you imagine feeling relief and then immediately after, almost at the same time, feeling guilt for having relief? That's absolutely unacceptable that we are putting that kind of pressure on moms and that we can't support them to say, like, yeah, hell yeah, you want some time alone. Of course, you need time to do things without having to be interrupted 50 times to, you know, pick something up off the floor or get a snack or whatever. It is objectively easier to get things done when you don't have to be taking care of somebody else at the same time. But we've equated this like need for alone time as okay, if you want that, then you are selfish. And we've also, somewhere in the mix, there's also this idea that if you want alone time, you're not a good mom or that you don't love your kid. And so I'm just saying these things out loud so you can hear how ridiculous it sounds. And so we can continue to push past all these old narratives of what, well, I should say, and some of these modern narratives of what a motherhood is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to be and how we're supposed to behave. I'm not interested in walking on a tightrope in order for somebody out there to be okay with how I choose to parent and or the amount of time that I need in order to sustain myself as a human. I'm just not interested in that. If I need an hour by myself to unwind or relax or do whatever I want to do, I don't even need to tell you what it is. That should be okay. And that should be supported by partner. It should be supported by society. It should be supported by whoever is around. Like, yeah, we should be normalizing that people need breaks, that people need time by themselves, that people need space and time to do things alone if that's what they want and need to do. What I will tell you is that when we don't support that and when we don't understand it, it impacts the mental health of the mom in such a way that it continues to erode her sense of self, her well being, her mental health, and it has an inverse effect. It has an adverse effect. If you are sort of feel like you can't ever take a break because it's quote unquote the wrong thing to do, or you're a bad mom if you take a break, and you force yourself into this ever present state, it will add to feelings of frustration and anger and even resentment. And these are real feelings. People aren't making this up. These are real impacts of being asked to overextend yourself as a mom in ways that are, frankly, like, I think a little unnatural. Like, there's just nothing in the world where we tell people, there's just nothing else in the world where we tell people you have to do this thing consistently all the time, be happy about it, not take breaks, um, whatever, set yourself aside in order to do this thing. There's really no equivalent to that type of pressure in just day to day. And in part because it's just not natural. Like our brains, when they're overstimulated, overwhelmed, just naturally check out. We have this like mechanism where if we're like at our max, we either physically and mentally, emotionally start to sort of break down, or we kind of check out and space out. Um, so what I hear a lot is that moms who are given time, and I even hate to say it that way, given time, moms who are supported to have the time that they need, uh, breaks from parenting, breaks from all these other duties, they are more present, or tend to be at least more present when they are around their kids, because they've had time to let their brain rest, let their body rest, do something that they're interested in, and not be sort of like burnt out from the overextension of themselves in parenting and in caregiving. So if you are somebody who has experienced this overwhelm as a parent, and who has this like need, desire, want for time alone, what are the ways in which you talk yourself out of it? How would you know that you're talking yourself out of it? Sometimes it's in the form of a should. So, like, I should be spending more time with my kid. I should be wanting to, play with Play Doh right now. I should be able to set aside the things that I want to do in order to be with my kid. That's what it could sound like in your head. You might not even notice that it's happening, honestly. Some of this stuff is so ingrained that we're just like in a constant loop of like having a want or a need, and then shooting it down, and then feeling the guilt and shame of even having a need, and then forcing ourselves into a pattern of just ignoring what we want and need, in order to be that ever present parent that we're told we should be, or that we should want to be. So it could slip by you. It could slip right by you that you're doing this to yourself, that this internalized process and voice is happening. So if you happen to pay attention to what your thought process is doing, what your feelings are doing, you could hear some of those shoulds, should, ought to, um, being judgmental towards yourself about it, like I'm a bad mom. That's what it could sound like. If I want time alone. I mean, if our measure of being a like quote unquote bad mom is that you want time alone, what are we doing to people? Let's have a whole other conversation some other time about this idea of bad mom. But really, is that really true, that if you want time alone, if you want time by yourself, you're a bad mom? Absolutely not. And I hope that when you hear me say it, it sounds like ridiculous. Of course, you're not a bad mom because you want or need time alone. Every single human, even extroverts, sometimes need and want time alone. Um, but it's just a normal part of our process. Like, we need downtime. This is not a brand new thing about being human. It's pretty normal. So yeah, maybe you can tell. It gets me heated. Um, because we are continuously putting this pressure on moms. Moms are internalizing it. And it's, as I mentioned before, there's the societal pressure, but there could be a family connected pressure. This could be something that either you learned about in your family, that you're supposed to be self sacrificing. Maybe you learned it from your mom or your grandparent, or maybe your in laws are that way, so you're feeling pressure from them, or who knows. But there are ways that, other than just like directly societally, that it could be showing up as pressure. It could be a cultural pressure, and it could be that familial pressure. But when we're alone in our house, the pressure is internal. It's our internalized voice telling us all of these things. Um, and then sometimes when our spouses or partners are there, they're alluding to these things too, or directly, you know, being judgmental or telling you you should be ever present for the kids. So just look out for the ways in which either you've internalized it, or the messages that you're getting from people around you or society around you. And if you agree with me that this is a ridiculous pressure to put on moms, but you're also a mom who's sitting there and saying, yeah, but that's true for everybody else except me, I really, really encourage you to look at that and to reflect on that for a minute. Like, why would you be an exception to this? You're not. You deserve the time alone. Also, you deserve whatever break it is that you need. This is true across the board for everybody, that we can take time if we want and need to, that we can do that guilt free and shame free, and that we should be supported to do that by people around us. We shouldn't have to feel bad for asking for it. Um, because oftentimes people aren't just going to say, "Hey, girl, go take a break." Sometimes they do, but that's not always the case. So it's okay to state that you need this and to ask the people around you to support you in that process. So I'll get off my soapbox for now, but hey, if this resonates for you, if you've caught yourself, you know, guilting yourself or shaming yourself for wanting time alone or downtime, I hope that this is supportive to you. And I really want you to know that this conversation happens so often in therapy, that it's not just a you thing. This, unfortunately, continues to be a struggle that a lot of moms have. I think the more we talk about it, the more we lay this out, the factors that are contributing to you feeling this way, the better off we'll all be, and the more supportive of each other we can all be. All right. Well, I thank you so much for being with me. I hope this has been supportive to you. And if you are somebody who needs help um, to wade through these feelings of guilt and or shame, or you want to disassemble the ways in which you've been taught to suppress your needs, I encourage you to go to therapy and find somebody you can work with who can help you to know that your wants and needs are valid and okay. And if you happen to be somebody in California and you'd like to work with me, I am taking clients at this point. Feel free to reach out to me at drkat@wellmindperinatal.com. Thank you so much for joining me in this discussion today. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this, absolutely send this episode along to them. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time.